Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League of Europe. We're here for round number 3 around the Suzuka City Circuit, and I'm quite looking forward to seeing how this is going to be going down with the rest of the grid. My name is Jake. I'll take you guys through this for this evening. Unfortunately, Mr. QVR Killer isn't here for this evening, so it is just myself. So you are stuck with me for the next probably hour and a half, hour and 40 odd minutes. But yeah, as I said, I'm quite looking forward to Japan. It's quite a renowned circuit within F1, not just within league racing, but just in general. So yeah, I mean, even a few times within Division 2 for Japan, you've had like certain moments that have gone on. Just trying to pick out a few to remembrance. I believe even for, I think it was season 7 or season 6. A lot of controversial moments going on in Japan throughout for that particular race anyway. But quickly just running through the standings whilst waiting for everybody just to load in really quickly. Mr. Ariel Felipe, or Ariel Nolan, as a lot of people know him as, is the one that is leading the standings at the moment. He has currently picked himself up a total of 52 points. The reserve of Alex G, who's now actually been promoted to Division 1, is sitting in second with 34 points. So it's actually his teammate, Mr. Ariel Felipe's teammate of Luco 5HD, who is currently sitting in second with 23 points to his name. Already, Nolan has a win or a winning gap up ahead of second place, and even then, second place is his teammate. So the AlphaTauri is already looking extremely strong going forward in this contest, even in just round 3. In third is Lifebout with 20 points, Reservoir in fourth with 19, QVR Ben JS in fifth with 18 points. Was now actually named as QVR Cost Cap'n. In sixth is Evans, also tied on 18 with Ben JS, and of course those two had a little coming together last week, so a little bit of controversy going on with those two as well. In seventh is T-Brum with 15 points to his name, not scoring any last week. In eighth is Larkin with 14 points. Ninth, Matty with 13 points. RJ ran that top 10 with 12 points to his name, as well as Lifeout has just joined the session. In 11th is DTR Brent with 12 points, tied with RJ, ironically, for in that top 10. So again, I feel like I was going to say we're already starting to see a few gaps form, but really the whole grid is still obviously tight. Of course, after 2 rounds, it's not going to be a surprise. However, of course, you have that outlier of Ariel Nolan, 52 points to his name, out in front. In 13th, as I said, is ET8 Chris with 5 points to his name. 12th is Taupe with 10 points. 13th is Chris with 5 points. Scream is 14th with 4 points. Rex in 15th with 3 points. Sweet Ross in 16th with 2 points. And then Miami, Charlie, Lix, Stain, and Marcio, all the ones that have yet to pick themselves up a point. Miami's first race of the season for tonight as well, around Japan. So could be a bit of an interesting one as well. So it looks as if Miami's just DM'd me asking what wings there are for a wet race. So I think it is a wet race. So this is going to be interesting. A full wet race on my own. Oh, okay. I'm being put through the depths on this. Okay, this is going to be fun. So we're going to be seeing wet setups going down left, right, and centre. Now I don't even know who to predict at this point. I really do not know who to predict. I wasn't. To be fair, I didn't even really have an idea beforehand, but now any sort of inkling of what I think could happen, yeah, that's gone completely out of the window now, and I can tell you that for certain. So run on board with Mr. FRL Charlie. As said, at the moment he currently is, I think I was just saying, he hasn't got any points so far in this season. He's DNF'd in both races around Britain and around China as well. So I think I remember it was like one of the last laps he ended up DNFing. So yeah, no finish for Charlie, and no finish Charlie around Britain and in China. And let's see if he's able to turn it around for today around in Japan. We'll run on board of him for his first lap around the Suzuka City Circuit, going down towards turn 1. DRS wide open as we start the lap now for the first time for this evening. As I said, going down in towards turn number 1, as a few guys come making their way out of the pit, not going to try and impede him as much. Riding that curve as much as possible. Of course, the double right-hander as well. Don't want to try and ride too much on that second curve. Nice little exit coming out there for Charlie. Now tries to ride that, ride both of those curves on the inside. You want to try and take as much of that as possible to the point when you're, of course, not losing time, but also not as little as possible to where you're then spinning out on the curb. Charlie's done a very nice job up until going up the Dunlop curve, and that's now spun him round, and that's basically his lap already null and void for the time being. So we'll go on to, I believe, the next person along, which is, of course, our championship leader, Mr. Ariel Nolan, already in sector 2, going through both Degners of Degner 1 Degner 2. Now, of course, coming around the curve here, into second gear. Obviously, he's using automatic gears, so he's not going to be able to short shift it up into third. So might have just lost a tiny little bit of time from the traction through that, but as he makes his way up towards the spoon curve now, he's going to be able to take this very nicely. Let's have a look around the 50-meter board. You want to brake maybe just after that, down into 6th, down into 5th, maybe even down into 4th. It does put it down in the 4th for him. Very nice traction coming out of spoon curve as well, and now all the way up, or the run up now all the way up to 130R. Be able to keep this one as flat out as possible. Is he going to ride the curb? He does ever so slightly, but that is keeping it nice and tidy. 100-meter board, you want to break it around, and again rides both of those curves very nicely. Down in through second, through third, and through fourth. Very easy to spin out of that final corner, but across the line comes Nolan to start us off with a 129.323 for a wet setup. It's not bad whatsoever. Miami just started his lap just behind him. I think Coxie might be the next one across the line, so we'll stick on board with the, I believe he is still a reserve driver for the Haas for this evening, as he invalidates literally at the final corner, so no lap time for Coxie as all. That was a bit strange. I think he might have had a bit of a slide going into the pit lane, and it's just automatically reset him to track for that, so I don't think he's really going to get any penalty for that, because the game just did that instantly for him. Reservoir, next one across the line. Is he able to beat Nolan's time? No, he is not. Misses out by 0.08 of a second, and now we're going to start to see some lap times creeping in. That's Scream with a 29.694. Who's going to be the next one to come in? I think Licks, in fact, invalidates on his lap, so he's not going to be able to get a lap time on the board as of moment. Sweet, a 29.715 for him. Chris, looking like a decent lap into P2 with a 29.379 for himself. As I said, a few more guys just making their way across the line. Larkin, 29.73. T-Brum, 30.4. Probably going to look to try and improve on that time as well. Luke with a 29.546. Who else is looking at? They're just going to be coming across the line very, very soon. I think Lifebout. No, maybe not Lifebout. Just having a look see if there's anybody else at the moment, if they're going to be able to make their way across the line very soon. I think Miami might be our next one. So we'll stick on board with the McLaren. I said yet to score any points because he hasn't actually raced so far this season. But the pairing of him and Larkin for this season could be a bit of an interesting one. Up to line he comes over to 30.035. Both of the McLarens sitting in 8th and 9th respectively with each other. Apologies for that. Right, let's just see. A few more times have just come in on the board here. Brent going into P14 with a 30.613. Evans as well, 29.8, and as well as BedJS with a 29.767. Lifebout as well, 29.4 for the as a reserve for RJ for this evening as well. Matty jumping up ahead of Chris into P2 in the Alfa Romeo. no, in the Ferrari, sorry, with the 29.373, 500ths of a second, half a tenth of a second behind Ariel Nolan. So our championship leader still proving why he is currently sitting as our championship leader currently, and of course sitting at the top of the grid so far. But as I said, been let known that it is a full wet race for this evening. So again, even though he's going to be qualifying on pole, or at the moment is sitting on pole, that result may or may not stand going into once the race has been done and finished. So we'll stick on board with Rex at the moment though. 30.099. I was expecting a couple of these times to be a little bit quicker, but again, with it being a full wet race, a lot of these guys are going to be going for a wet setup as opposed to a dry setup for this evening. So yeah, it's just whoever's going to be able to keep it out on track as much as they possibly can. I think, I was going to say Nolan's going to be our next one to cross the line, but that's actually sitting on board with Charlie, who was right on a lap and unfortunately dropping it at the spoon curve. So he'll probably be making his way in at the end of this lap. Coxie, I think, is going to be our next one to complete a lap as Lix has invalidated on his lap time. Let's have a look and see if Coxie's able to get a valid lap on the board this time around. Hopefully not invalidate out of the final corner. He doesn't this time. Coming down the final corner now, here comes Coxie. Is he going to be able to try and challenge Nolan? No, not really. And it's down into P14 for him, a 30.286 for Coxie in the hash. So not probably not a time that he would be hoping for. But I mean, there's still a good few more, a good bit of time left in the session, as our championship leader on his second lap has actually spun around in the S section of the track. So I'm not going to make any improvement at this present moment, but could still have a decent opportunity going forward as well. So yeah, a little bit of a lull period at the moment. Larkin, I think, is going to be starting a lap right about now, as he has an Alfa Romeo right up the back of him. I think that it's not even Rex, that was Lix, in fact, actually just making his way into the pit. So Larkin's starting his lap now. Should we ride on board with him? I think Lucas just starting his lap as well. So yeah, we'll ride on board with Larkin for the remainder of this lap and see how he gets on. Sitting down in P10 at the moment, and I think he was P9 in the standings. So yeah, I know he's had I know China he was pretty disappointed with, but for Japan, we'll see if he's able to make any sort of inroads and any more improvements on this one. Going up the Dunlop curve now in 6th gear, very nicely taken as well for Larkin. He's got the Stricken Williams just on the inside going into the first Degner, but it's not really going to hinder him at all, and a 10.5 up on his time, so 29.730 for his actual lap so far. He's 10.5 up on that, so they'll put him around just up ahead of that screen, maybe even just behind Luke. It depends if the Sector 2 and Sector 3 are going to be making any more of an improvement. But yeah, as he's making his way up towards Spoon Curve now, let's see if he is able to take this as nice as possible, keeping it down in 6th gear, down it into 5th gear, and carrying the speed as much as he can through Spoon. It was nicely done from Larkin. Now just, of course, the flat out section all the way up until that final chicane, even through 130R. What time is it going to be? Is 2 tenths up on his time, so this is going to be in contention with Luke. Could even potentially be in contention with Lifeboat, depending on how this final chicane goes for him. Across the first curb, across the second curb. Is he going to be able to get a nice traction out of it? He certainly does. Coming up towards the line comes Larkin. It's a 29.481, just behind Lifeboat, and slotting in between both Lifeboat and Luke for that lap. And 7 minutes left to go with qualifying. A lot of guys now out on a second lap of 3. Of course, they can do 3 laps on the set of the soft compounded tyre, and assuming that everybody is out on a set of the softs, although Charlie was a little bit of an exception last week. I think was on a set of the, no, sorry, not last week, in the first race around Silverstone. For some reason went out on a set of the mediums. Probably thought better of that, as Luke goes on top now with a 29.144. Both of the Alpha Tauris, 1 and 2 at the moment, proving to be a bit of a hindrance to the rest of the grid. So yeah, Luke in now a prime position to take this pole up ahead of his teammate, but Matty is on purples as Resify, his teammate, goes up into P2 with the 29.196. The other Ferrari now just making his way around the final chicane. He was purple, up into 5th gear, up into 6th gear. Is this now going to take a pole from Luke? No, it does not, but it just, by 0.008 of a second, goes up ahead of his teammate as Brent puts it up in the P10 now with a 29.518, and a lot of other guys just making their way up towards the line now. I think that was Evans just to start his lap, if I'm not mistaken. No, it wasn't, sorry, that was Charlie starting his lap. I said a few other guys just making their way across the line. I think the next one is going to be the Alfa Romeo of Licks to actually start his final, to start a lap around here, as that Scream 400ths of a second up on his time. The German in the Williams making his way around the final corner now, looking to make it a bit of an improvement. He does, however, it's not enough to move any positions. The 29.607 still sees him in P11 for the time being. So Brent managing to hold on to that top 10 for the time being. Of course, if you are new to the League of Europe as well, top 12 are all the ones that get points, not top 10. We do top 12. So at the moment, if it was to finish the way that it is, then Sui would be our final points finisher. If it was the case that this quali stayed the exact same as it would do in the race, then yeah, Sui would be picking up the final point at the moment. But of course, quali's not over yet by any means. We've still got just 5 minutes left to go of the session. Ryan on board of Miami, he was second up on his second down on his time, shall I say? So I don't think he's going to be making any improvement. Probably going to make his way into the pits. It's Evans in the other Aston Martin, a 29.360. to put himself up into P6. Nice time from him as well, and see if he is able to maybe make any more improvements on that final run, as Charlie nicely done over the final curbs as he goes spinning in towards the pit lane. So Charlie again not making an improvement either, still yet to put a time on the board, same as Licks, although I've just seen that from Licks. Purple in Sector 2. I've seen this before in this game. Whether that's true or not is a different story. But up towards the line comes Licks. It's 20. No, it's not. It's not even a 20. It's a 30.062. Both of the Alfa Romeos really struggling to get anything going in this session. And still with Rex. Say that though, 10th and a half up on his time. Will jump him up ahead of his teammate, but it's not going to look to jump him up ahead of Ben JS. And Ben JS really struggling around in this track as well, sitting down in P15 at the moment with a 29.767. But Rex across the line now, 29.836. He did manage to make an improvement and close that gap up, to Ben JS, but it's just not enough, and I feel like that might even be his final lap. I don't know if he's going to be able to get around in time to produce another lap. I think Evans might just about be on the cusp of that. Maybe even Nolan, if he was to make his way in. However, a 10th and a half up for our championship leader. He really wants to try and dethrone his teammate. I wonder if his teammate's going to be able to let him know. Coming around the spoon curve, very nicely done. Very nice exit coming out of there for Nolan. Now up to, or the run up towards 130R. Able to keep this one flat out. What's the timing looking like? He's a 10th and a half still up on his time. Jumps him up ahead of Matty at least. It will be AlphaTauri 1-2 as long as Nolan can keep this nice and tidy through this final chicane. But is this going to be able to dethrone his teammate? Was it this Sector 3? Was it that final chicane that was causing a hindrance for Nolan? It certainly was. 4 thousandths of a second up ahead of his teammate. P1 and P2 for the AlphaTauri so far, with 2.5 minutes left to go. A lot of guys are now going to start to make their way out of the pits to get a final run on the board, but Nolan getting that final run in early just to cause a bit of pressure for the rest of the guys, maybe from second all the way down to 5th, but Tope sitting an impressive P5 at the moment with a 29.343 and 8 thousandths down on his time. Tope could still be looking to make his moves up within this top 5. He hasn't had a very good start to Division 2 for this season. Of course, Division 2 last season as well. I feel like he was probably a bit underperforming, if you wouldn't mind me saying, as he still stays in P5, but improves on that time with a 129.249. So nice lap time from him as well. But yeah, I don't think Tope, again, I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying, he didn't really have the best Division 2 last season. So yeah, I mean, I guess for this season he wants to try and make a bit more of an impact in comparison to what he did for last season. And at the moment, sitting in P5, it's not a bad way to start that off. I believe I was going to say it was going to be Charlie would be the one starting on a proper final lap for ourselves, but in fact is looking like it will be Luke, unless Nolan decides to stay out and go for one more lap. Or is he giving slip for his teammate to then make it look like it's definitely going to be a... No, I don't think he is. I think he's just coming into the pits now. Yeah, Nolan into the pits, so that's his lap times all done and dusted. Rex retiring from the session as well in the pits because he is now all finished as well. So it's up to Luke. Is Luke going to be able to dethrone his teammate? Nolan's done everything that he can to try and hold this pole position. Will the AlphaTauri be able to do it? Will both of the Ferraris be able to do it? Because they're looking quite pacey at the moment as well. Both Resify and Matty. They're just, in fact, Resify's just starting his lap as all that is Luke into the wall. So Luke is not going to be getting that pole position for this evening. It's now up to the 2 Ferraris. I was going to also say Tote, because I think he still has enough time, just about, to go for one more lap. But I don't think he's going to be able to go for it. No, he comes into the pit. So it's up to the 2 Ferraris. Maybe a couple other guys below. Chris was looking pretty pacey as well earlier in the early stages of qualifying. I'm going to go on board and Resify though, because that's the one we all need to keep our eye out for and see if he's able to make any improvements on the 2 AlphaTauris out in front of him. He is only 0.05 of a second behind the 2 AlphaTauris. Sorry, Matty is only 0.05 of a second. Resify is 0.06 of a second behind Nolan in the AlphaTauri. So let's have a look. Runs it a little bit wide out of Degner 2. Would have definitely cost him a little bit of time, especially getting a bit squirmy on the exit. But he was purple in sector 1. Nice done from Resify. Didn't manage to catch the actual time between it, as in fact he's backed off. So Resify has backed off. Not going to be an improvement for him. Matty not improving, and in fact has just invalidated through Degner 2 as well. So no improvements for him. It is up to Evans now to see if he can try and dethrone Nolan. At the moment though, it's looking like Nolan is going to be on pole. However, saying that though, Chris 0.2 of a second up on his time, and I said we need to look out for Chris in this race, and at the moment in qualifying it's definitely proven that way. Nolan is still going to be sitting on top for the time being, but I think Chris could be looking to dethrone the 2 AlphaTauris. Could he even split them? It would be an absolute, it would be very interesting if he could split them, especially considering there's only 0.05 of a second between them. But we'll see if he's able to split them. T-Brom coming across the line. P8 for him, 29.397. Coxie, Charlie Licks, all sitting at the back in 17th, 18th and 19th respectively for all of them. Sweet! In the other Alpine, going them into P3 with a 29.161. Ben JS retiring from the session out of the final corner as well. Now let's have a look. Resify, Chris. Let's have a look for Chris. Is he able to dethrone the 2 AlphaTauris? He certainly does. A 29.124 for pole position so far. Miami going to be the next one across the line as that screen. 29.342 for him. P9, sorry. 14th for Miami. 29.629. Evans as well out of, I think that was actually, no, sorry, his car's kept on going, but Evans not making an improvement on that time either. So that's him now done for qualifying. And Chris, first pole position this season in Division 2. Very nicely done. Our Division 3 champion from last season, chucking it straight on pole position. So close between the top 7. Larkin as well, I didn't even realise. Improved on his time, a 29.222 for him. But yeah, Chris, the Bulgarian, straight onto pole position. Felipe in second, or Nolan in second. Our championship leader, of course. Luke in third. His championship rival, who's also his teammate. Swees in fourth. So it's Alpine, AlphaTauri, Alpine. Then the 2 Ferrari. So it's already looking like who's going to be the best of the rest. And at the moment, Larkin is the best of the rest. Tope and Scream in 8th and 9th, lining up alongside each other for this season, for this race as well. Evans in 10th, T-Brom is 11th, Lifebound 12th, Brent's 13th, Miami in 14th, Ben Jess in 15th, Rex 16th, Coxie 17th, Charlie in 18th, and Licks at the back end of the field for this race. And yeah, that's going to be a very tall order for both Licks and for Charlie to see if they can pick up any points, because it's not very easy to overtake around the streets of Japan. So we'll see if they're able to do it. But yeah, very interesting qualifying. I say we'll see if they're able to do it. It's hammering it down in this full wet race, and I'm intrigued if it's going to be wet tyres or inter tyres. If we're getting told it's a full wet race, something tells me it's going to be wet tyres. If it's inters, then it can still throw a bit of a spanner in the works, but it's not going to be as much as if it would be for the wet tyres. It doesn't look as if it's raining as hard as what I think it would be, so I feel like it still might be intermediates. Just trying to see in the garage if I can see any sort of tyres or anything like that. I can't really sort of see it. I think. No, I can't see. I think it is wet tyres actually. I can't really see it properly, but I believe it might be wet tyres. Could be interesting. Could be very, very interesting. But 10 seconds until the formation lap gets underway for this evening, and maybe any predictions going on in chat. See who, or we'll see what you think you'd be able to, if you can predict who will be the top 3, especially in a wet race. Could be interesting. In fact, it is intermediate tyres, so I wonder if it will get a bit heavier going forward. But yeah, it definitely enters for this race or for the start of this race so far. Both Chris and Nolan racing it out down towards turn 1, and I think Nolan just trying to give a bit of insight as to what it will go down to through turn 1 between himself or between Nolan and between Chris as well. Nolan's going to be leading us through the formation lap because he's just decided to go past him in the end. Both Chris and Luke, though, trying to follow Nolan as much as possible, just to try and get used to the inter conditions. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them for trying to race it flat out to get used to the inters and see how it feels on this tyre. A lot of other guys don't seem to be doing it. Larkin, of course, being the leader of all the other guys that are sitting behind him at the moment. But I see Nico in the chat. Nice to see you again, Nico. Saying, hey, Jackie, how's it going? Nolan saying that's how you bottle a 28. Somehow lost 2.5 attempts second half of the lap. Very interesting. Charlie, don't understand how I'm Div 2. Well, that's how it goes. Obviously, still can have some moves going on, but that's where you've been placed. Just got to deal with it. But I'm going to quickly just go grab some water. I'm back in just a short moment. Let's have a look. For round number 3 of Division 2 for this season, the 5 red lights are on. The lights are out, and away they go. Luke looking like he's actually got the best start of the two AlphaTauris. Chris goes straight over to the right-hand side. Luke definitely got the best start of the two AlphaTauris. In fact, Nolan dropping down now to 4th. Side by side with Matty going through turn number 1. And Nolan manages to get that position back off of Matty. Larkin going around the outside of Swee. As, I believe that was a Williams going off of, I think that was Tope. And T-Brom still both side by side as Matty having a, Reserfy. Bit of a scrum going through the S's, and I think there's been a bit of a spinner towards the back. That is, I believe, Charlie and Ben JS. Looking like they've got into a little bit of contact at the moment, but Chris, very good start from him. Luke as well, jumping up ahead of his teammate. Matty, though, and Larkin putting that much pressure onto Nolan early on. Matty going a little bit wide out of the first Degner. Larkin, I thought, might have tried to send it up through the second Degner, but now coming up in towards the curve, are we going to see the McLaren maybe go for a move down the inside in towards it? We certainly are going to see it. Is Matty going to be able to hold on? The Ferrari, I think, might just have to give this one up. I don't know who's going to get a bit of traction out of the two off them. I think it's Larkin. It certainly is. Larkin now up into 4th position. Nicely done from him. Good racing between the pair of them as well. Now Larkin versus Nolan once again. This is the fight for the win in China last week. Until Larkin had a bit of a mare himself. As it looks like Brent side by side with Miami from the looks of things. No, it's just the timing is just completely glitched for some strange reason. But yeah, all looking very close, very clean so far throughout the field. Already top 5 breaking, top 6 breaking away. Reservoir, of course, having that moment through the S section. As oh my goodness, that was Evans. I thought he was going straight in the wall, but just sort of jittering everywhere. Thought the Red Bull of Lifeboat was about to go into the back of him. Is anybody coming into the pits at the start of the Grand Prix? Doesn't look as if they are. I think everybody has managed to keep their noses nice and clean. So, Chris, manages to hold the lead in lap number 1, up ahead of Luke in second. Nolan keeping that third position. Keeping. Dropped down to third. Now 1 second already behind the top 2. Larkin in fourth, and I think wants to get a move on and get past Nolan ASAP. Matty is in 5th, Sweet in 6th, with Reservoir in 7th, Tope in 8th, T-Brum in 9th, and Evans rounding out that top 10. That's Scream in 11th, and Lifebout taking the final points so far for this evening. Of course, you also do get a fastest lap point for top 12 as well, as that's Scream having a moment coming out of Dunlop Curve. He did hit the wall. I don't know if he's gotten any wing damage, but I think he actually does, because he's just letting everybody else through. So I think that's Scream, once again, not having much of a benefit in this one for this evening. Unfortunately hitting the wall as Rex and Brent both side by side, and Brent down the inside, I believe, of the curve. Rex, I don't know if he was expecting it, but now gets that move done. Tope as well, get him done around the outside by T-Brum. I don't know if Tope must have made some sort of mistake, because he's also dropped back nearly a second behind Reservoir. Reservoir has now caught up to the back of Swee, so I don't know what happened with Tope there, but yeah, he's lost that position to T-Brum. The Relentless Driver now up into P8, and a second now behind Reservoir. Reservoir, I said, nicely done from him, closing that gap up to the back of Swee, and see if he's able to go for any sort of move. But again, Larkin, he just gets a better traction coming out of it, and you can see that going down. Here we go. Is this battle for P3 going to go down? Nolan's going to try and go defensive on the inside of it. Goes back towards the racing line. You can just see that straight line speed he's got in comparison to Swee, has in fact actually had a spin coming out of the final corner. Miami going past Rex as well, and Swee, I think he probably got a bit of wing damage to his name, but yeah, Miami and Rex still both side by side. That is a car just going straight on. I think that might have been Coxie. Yeah, Coxie going around, out of turn number 1. I'm not sure what happened with that. Brent and Ben JS also going side by side. I think that might have actually been Brent that went straight on, but yeah, it was Coxie spinning around out of turn number 1. Yeah, a lot of gaps already forming throughout Division 2, and at the moment Chris now already 1 second up ahead of Luke. Luke 1 second up ahead of Nolan. Again, we're seeing a repetitive theme from the last season. Larkin though, is he going to go for a move on Nolan, maybe down the inside the same way that he did with Matty? Nolan goes defensive on it. He knows to go defensive on it, but who's going to get the better traction out of the two? I think it's still going to be Nolan for the time being, but Larkin, he's just going to try and sit in that slip at the moment. It must be very frustrating for him, because he knows he's got the pace to catch up to those other two in front of him. But for Nolan, I think he's just chilling. He's happy just to try and defend from Larkin as much as possible. He doesn't want any involvement, or doesn't want to try or get Larkin to get involved with those front two. But yeah, it's just all of that though. It's just costing Nolan time, and now he's using ERS. So is Larkin. Both of those two are using as much as possible, and you can just see the straight line difference in comparison from Larkin to Nolan. Larkin just looking a bit more comfortable throughout every single one of the corners, and of course with him being on manual gears compared to Nolan's automatic gears is already putting Nolan at a bit more of a disadvantage. So he needs any advantage he can get, which I think is why he's running a bit lower wings in comparison to those all around him. But yeah, T-Brum, the one that's setting the fastest lap so far, down in 7th position in the intermediate conditions. It's quite interesting, because he's sitting at the back of this train that's all being held up by our championship leader in 3rd position. So yeah, I wonder if we're going to see any sort of moves go down very, very soon. Lifebout as well, just sitting on the back of Evans for the time being. Rex also having his own little train with Miami and Swee behind him. I don't think Swee actually did pick up any wing damage, otherwise he would have probably pit on that lap. Ben JS also has his little train of Brent, Licks and Charlie all behind him. Yeah, that Scream coming into the pits, changing on a new set of intermediate tyres and changing his front wing. And then Coxie sitting in 18th as well, after having that spin out of turn number 1. I don't know if it was contact with someone, it did look like it, but yeah, very unfortunate for him, to say the least, as well. Larkin though, any other attempt maybe at Nolan down in towards the curve, not going to be able to get any sort of move done through the hairpin, sorry. Is he going to get a better traction though in comparison to the AlphaTauri? In fact, he certainly does. Are we going to see maybe a move even go down in towards Spoon? No, he's using ERS. Both of them are using ERS. Nolan to defend, Larkin to attack. A bit wide though for Nolan through Spoon Curve, and unfortunately for Larkin, it's not a place you can overtake as there's yellow flags. That is that screen out of Dunlop Curve once again. He just hates that corner, and that's a full course safety car. That's brought out a full safety car. Has he got no front wing? He's got no front wing, so that is probably why. Now, I don't think anyone's going to pit. There's no reason for anybody to pit, although I suppose they could do just as they're on at least 4 lap fresher tyres. I don't really see any point though. Yeah, Chris not pitting, Luke not pitting, Nolan not pitting, Larkin not pitting. However, Matty is. Resify stays out, T-Brom stays out, Toe stays out, Evans stays out, Lifebound stays out. Yeah, everyone's staying out from the looks of things. So I wonder why Matty pit. Ben JS has come into the pits as well as Brent. Have these guys all got damaged? No, Matty's just come straight back out onto a fresh set of inters, but towards the back end of the field now. I don't understand his reasoning for pit, because now Coxie goes past him and Matty's now going to stay down in 14th position. Despite holding 4th for quite some time, despite holding 5th for quite some time, there was really no reason for him to make a pit stop. So I don't understand why he's done that, to be honest with you. But majority of the cars are already caught up to the safety car. It's that Scream, of course, with his front wing, or no front wing, shall I say. That's probably sitting just behind the first Degner or something like that. Probably stuck in a barrier somewhere, but... yeah, very unfortunate for that Scream. Second one for this evening. Chucking on another fresh set of intermediate tyres. And, of course, a new front wing. But Chris, again, he's held it very nicely throughout the first 4 laps. And now, for this safety car restart, of course, when it does go down, are we going to be able to see him maybe try and hold on up ahead of the 2 AlphaTauris? Only time will tell. Just have a quick look at Division 4, see if there's anything going down with those guys in there for the time being. Whilst we, of course, we are under safety car conditions. But, yeah, at this present moment, as I say, Chris having a nice lead so far. T-Rum, I think, still has the fastest lap to my knowledge yet, sitting in P6 at the moment for 42.140. Yeah, I don't know if anything's going down in Division 4 as we speak. In fact, they've actually had to have a restart. So, they are just on their formation lap. And, ironically, it's also intermediate conditions for Division 4. So, yeah, I think... well, both Division 2 and Division 4, both of the later races, having rain in their race is a bit interesting, I've got to admit. Especially also having rain in, I think it was Division 1 qualifying as well, but that was a full wet qualifying. I don't know about Division 3 though. I think Division 3 was the only one that has stayed fully dry throughout the entirety of the night so far. Iconex is the one that's on pole for Division 4, Energetics in second, and Old School in third. Rooting for Old School. Love to see him get a podium, especially on his steering wheel as well. In the wets, I've seen what he can do in the wet. He is pretty handy in the wet. Don't know about it on steering wheel, but he's pretty handy in the wet. As Lifebound and Evans both just changing positions there. I don't know what that was about. I think Evans must have just had a moment, and it's now promoted Lifebound up into 8th position because he was 2 seconds behind him. So I think Evans must have had a moment coming out of the first Degner, which is allowed Lifebound to just go straight up the inside of him. So, sorry, second Degner. Yeah, very peculiar circumstances. Still, however, just waiting for that Scream to catch back up as Lifebound and Evans once again changing positions. What's going on with that? Is Evans trying to get back past him? I don't know what's happening with that. Unless Evans is just lagging everywhere. I don't know what's happening. Don't know what's happening. In fact, yeah, no, it shows there. So Lifebound letting Evans go, but then Lifebound goes back past him. Very peculiar. We might even see, I was about to say it, we might even see safety car come in this lap because that Scream's just caught up to the back, and we certainly will. So Chris is going to have to do a late restart with the 2 AlphaTauris behind him, who is going to get the best start of them all Is it going to be Chris? Is it going to be Luke? Luke is sitting right up his rear, and Luke is the one with a good restart. However, Larkin is the one with the best restart. They're going to be almost going 3 wide down in towards turn 1. Larkin's going to try and go down the inside of Nolan. Luke is also going to try and hold it down the inside of Chris. They're both going 2 by 2. Noah's Art. Luke is going down the inside of Chris. Larkin going down the inside of Nolan. They're still both side by side. Both of these guys all side by side. Chris now has to back out from Luke, and it's going to allow Larkin to go straight up the inside through turn number 4 on Chris. They're both still side by side of each other, and I think Chris, unfortunately for him, trying to defend from Luke, he's now been absolutely mugged off by Larkin. Larkin's now up into 2nd position. T-Brum now trying to go down the inside of Nolan through the Dunlop curvers. Oh, that's a bit of contact. Evans going around. I think that might have been a bit of lag, because that just did not look like proper contact from that. Although saying that though, I think that was Tope that did end up spinning him. Has dropped back a couple of positions. Miami's now up into 7th. Lifeboat in 6th, who has a penalty to his name as well. Nolan going back up the inside on T-Brum on this restart. It's been an absolutely chaotic restart. Both the relentless drivers still side by side of each other. Like T-Brum down the inside. Nolan around the outside, has to back out, does the Mercedes of T-Brum, and now has to sit down in P5 for the time being. But that is huge for Larkin in that opening first few corners to get himself up into 2nd position, and can now challenge Luke for this race win. Unfortunate, as I say, for Chris, because it was nice. It was decent defending. Both going, both 1st and 2nd going side by side, 3rd and 4th going side by side through turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3. But yeah, and I think Nolan just got a bit too greedy. Maybe he could have backed out, and he even probably could have picked up a position when Larkin went around the outside of Chris. But yeah, Nolan's just going to sit in 4th for the time being, and potentially could be losing that position to T-Brum just behind him. But you can see that straight line speed that Nolan has gotten in comparison to T-Brum right behind him. He's just pulling away ever so slightly. Larkin making a bit of a mistake going through turn 1, as he now allows Chris to close back up to the back of him, and Luke to just sort of drive off a little bit. However, saying that, Larkin getting an amazing drive out of turn 2. I don't know what happened with that, as Tope and Rex both into the pit. So yeah, I think that confirms it. That was it looked like it was decent contact between Evans and Tope, but Tope, I think, did pick up some sort of wing damage throughout all of that, as T-Brum once again so close to the back of Nolan. In fact, are we going to see it going down in towards the first Declan? Nolan, I think, getting a tap on the rear from T-Brum. Our championship leader now has no front wing. Out of the exit off the Dunlop curve. Isn't that going to be another safety car potentially? Oh, that's an Aston Martin almost going at the back of him. That's Evans, who was actually battling with him before. Oh, and that's a little bit of contact. I don't know. Nolan probably shouldn't try to be defending this one. He certainly is going to get out. Now going to get out of his way, and Evans now up into 15th. But I don't. Hopefully for Nolan, hopefully for Evans, he didn't get any wing damage from that. As a little bit looking behind now, Matty maybe trying to eye up a move on Coxey for P7. Coxey, by keeping it nice and clean as well throughout all of that, he's moved up into 7th position when he was towards the back end of the grid. So that safety car restart was absolute chaos, and it's now allowed the guys that were towards the back to move their way up forward. As I say, Miami is now up into 6th. Lifeboat's up into 5th. And he was sort of sitting in the middle, as there is another safety car, I think, for Nolan's front wings. So, yeah, that's safety car now in. Safety car now out. Luke is in. Larkin is in. Chris stays out. T-Brum is in. Lifeboat is in. Miami is in. So, are we seeing dry tyres? Are we still seeing some more inter tyres? We're still seeing some more intermediate tyres, and to my knowledge, with Suzuka, I don't think these inters are getting to the end. I think inters can only really get to the end from, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was lap 12 or lap 13. So I could be completely wrong, and I just might be chatting absolute poo, but if I remember correctly, I mean, these guys might be able to get these to the end, actually, to be fair. With it being a safety car, there probably is more of a chance that they will get this to the end. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But, yeah, Rex is saying that he got taken out by lag, so that's the reason why him and Tope were towards the back end of the field. Right, that makes more sense. That must have been that whole kerfuffle that went down with Evans and Tope. And unfortunately for Rex, he just got caught up by that as well. So, yeah. Second safety car now. Chris once again into the lead of that because he didn't make a pit stop. Same with Matty. In fact, Matty, Brent, Ben JS, Dash Scream and Licks all pit on their last one. Reserfy also made a pit stop on that restart with, I think it was with Rex and Taupe. So, I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to go down, to be honest with you. I really don't. But Chris, the only one without a pit stop at the moment. Of course, in the wet conditions, you don't have to pit. That's as simple as that. You don't have to pit if you can take those tyres to the end. I think same rule applies for intermediate conditions. But I don't think the Inters would get to the end from the very start. So that's why I think everybody else from Luke downwards made a pit stop. It's now the case though, if they're able to get those tyres to the end to start off with. And it depends if it dries up. I've been told it's a full wet race. But does that mean it could be getting heavier? Could it be getting lighter? Charlie's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane and retires from the session under a safety car. Don't know why you do that under a safety car, because then it gives more of a chance, especially if you saw what happened on the last safety car restart. And that's also probably why, Charlie, you're sitting with 0 points and why you're still asking why you're Division 2. Because you're retiring from the session under a safety car. But, yeah, that's just my take on it. Chris, as I say, still yet to make a pit stop. The guys behind him are Matty, Brent, Ben JS, Cost Cap'n, Das Screaming, Licks, and Resify all made their pit stop. The guys on the 5-lap olds, they did that on the last safety car restart, or the last safety car, sorry. Everybody else from Luke downwards made a pit stop under this safety car. And it's up to Luke, because he's looking at him and Larkin look like the two quickest on the track at the moment with Chris. It's up to those three, especially both Luke and Larkin, see if they can make their way through the field. Of course, Chris is leading the field, so he'll be able to see if he's able to try and defend off Matty, because Matty's not looking bad, but at the same time, but I don't know really where I'm going with this. Matty's just not, he's looking quick, but he doesn't look as if he's going to be anywhere close to the back of Chris. Brent, not looking too bad either. He's looking quite handy in the wets as well. Seen what he is capable of in the wets, so hopefully he's able to convert that one in this as well. But Jess, again, another one that is also quite handy in the wets. So we'll see what goes down with that as well. Charlie's just saying in chat, clearly didn't see my straight line speed, can't overtake anyone. Got taken out twice. I'm not sure what you want me to say to that, to be honest, but I suppose that's how things go. There's not much else you can really sort of do about that. Hope back into the pits. It's changed to another set of intermediate tyres. Is he just trying to have the best set of inters towards the end of the race? It's the only thing I could think of. And the only thing I can think of. Yeah, Rex saying also Evan's Wi-Fi is bad at the moment. Yeah, I have seen Evans jittering around everywhere, so I have to have a word with him after this race for that as well. But let's have a look. 11 laps into the race. Let's have a look at the positions gained and positions lost. So, of course, with everybody making their pit stop under the safety car, it's going to have a lot of position changes that going down, but at the same time, a few that are going up. Of course, Matty starting on P5, he's now up to P2 after making a pit stop under the safety car. I did call him, I was surprised that he did it at first, but now it's looking like it's paying dividends for him. Brent and Ben JS both also jumping up quite a hefty amount of positions. Licks changed positions with Resify and then changed straight back. So I don't know what happened with those two there. Very odd, very odd. But yeah, Licks as well, from literally the back end of the grid, is now up into 6th position after making a pit stop under the safety car as well. Because if you're at the back, it is usually quite handy to go for a pit stop under the safety car, because then everybody else, if they don't do it, then really you're at more of an advantage. Now the safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. Chris has a lot more leeway to try and back up the rest of the pack to his liking, but it doesn't look as if he is. He's looking like he's trying to keep a decent speed with the safety car this time around. I'm going to watch it from Matty's POV and see when Chris will opt to go. Is it out of this final corner? He's gone now, so Chris is now gone out of the final corner, as I say. A little bit of a swerve from Chris though, so it means he's not going to have the drive that he would have hoped for. It's now going to allow Ben JS and Brent to maybe go for something, but Ben more so because he's trying to go around the outside of Brent down in towards turn number 1. Brent goes very wide out of turn 1, picks up a penalty for his troubles as well. Has a better drive coming through turn number 2, but unfortunately for Brent, because of him going wide, he's now down. He's now got that 3-second penalty, which is now causing more of a hindrance for him towards the end of the race, especially if there is a late safety car. Yeah, all clean so far through the first few corners. Chris managing to still hold on to the lead of this race. Resify maybe also looking to see if he can go for a move on that screen through the Dunlop curve. Let's have a look and see. Is Resify maybe going to try and go for it even before Degner 1? Don't think he's going to be able to. IRT driver is just going to have to sit behind the Williams driver for the time being. Licks now touching the back of Resify going through the second Degner, and now it's up to, in fact I didn't even clock it, Larkin got the move done on Luke. Is he going to go down the inside through the hairpin as well? I think he is going to hold it down the inside. Licks, I don't know if he's going to have an answer for that one. He is not, and Licks now getting overtaken by Larkin. Luke is also going to try and go around the outside to have the inside in towards Spoon Curve, as well as Lifeboat also going to try and follow him through as well. But I think Lifeboat has to back out of that one, unfortunately for him. What I'm saying, that Licks has gone very, very wide out of the Spoon Curve first corner of it, and it's now allowing Lifeboat to go down the inside, as well as T-Brum, I think, is also going to follow him suit. So now, yeah, in fact, T-Brum had the better drive out of those guys as well, and T-Brum now, side by side with Lifeboat, going down in towards 130 yards. Surely the relentless driver doesn't hold it down the inside. He's trying to hold it down the inside. Not the smartest thing that you can do, because now it allows Licks to maybe go for another move on T-Brum down in towards the final chicane. No, he's not. He's just going to hold it back for the time being. Definitely got a warning for that corner cut there. So Licks now down into 11th position after starting the safety car restart up in 6th. He's now down into 11th, unfortunately for him. But Chris is the one that has managed to hold on for the time being. He's managed to hold on to that lead up ahead of Matty, especially with Matty on those fresher tyres. I know they're only 3 or 4 laps fresher, but any sort of advantage, especially towards the end, will definitely count. And at the moment, these guys all being held up by Scream in 5th. So Scream, after making an early pit stop and of course causing that first safety car, he's now up into 5th position. But as I say, he's holding up the rest of these guys, as in fact he slightly moves out of the way for everybody. Probably not intentional, but that Scream now moves out of the way basically for Resify and for Larkin. Larkin's now up in the 6th, Resify up in the 5th. That is a spinner. That is Licks, unfortunately, out of the Dunlop curve. That Scream now going to be put under pressure from Luke as well, going down in towards the hairpin. Lifeboat also maybe seeing if he can go for any sort of move, but not going to be able to go for anything. Luke going a bit defensive on the Red Bull as well. And yeah, Luke keeping that P8 for the time being, as Evans lagging everywhere off of the circuit from the looks of things. I don't know if he actually in fact went off the circuit, because now Swee all over the back of the Aston Martin. It's also allowed Rex and Felipe were both very close to each other. But yeah, Nolan's now up into 15th after starting in P2. Obviously having that spin as well out of Dunlop. I don't know if he was, I think he got tapped by T-Brum, as T-Brum and Lifeboat once again side by side through 130R. T-Brum's now going to just almost force him off track with that, but to try and keep that inside as much as possible through 130R. It's so difficult, even in the dries, to have 2 cars go side by side through 130R, let alone in the wet. And T-Brum makes it work, as that is that Scream going around, unfortunately for him, out of the final corner. So that Scream now has got a fully broken front wing once again. Hopefully there's not going to be another safety car. It doesn't look as if it will be, but Licks has made his way into the pits as Lifeboat getting overtaken by Miami down the inside in towards turn 1 and for turn 2 as well. Still more yellow flags. That is, I believe, I don't know who that is actually, yellow flags. In fact, that's Nolan and Rex. Nolan and Rex both coming into contact through turn number 1. I don't know what had happened between the pair of them and who was the aggressor and all of that, but Yeah, unfortunately missing that going on, and as well as missing that going on, Luke is now 1.5 seconds behind Larkin. I wonder if he came into contact with that screen, which is why that screen went around out of the final corner. I suppose it's there for speculation. It's definitely there for speculation, but now the pitters for this run are now making their way through the field. As I say, Reservoir is in 5th, Larkin's in 6th respectively with the pair of them, and the only guys that are still left out in front of him are the ones that made the pit stop under the first safety car, as well as Chris, who's yet to still make a pit stop. As Evans, all over the back of Coxey, going through the spoon curve. Don't think the Welshman's going to be able to go for any sort of move at this time, for the time being, but maybe going to try and line up something going down in towards 130R. Is Evans going to be able to do anything? I said going down towards 130R. He's using the ERS to close up as much as he can to the back of Coxey, but not going to be close enough for any sort of move. Coxey also needs to be careful, especially if Evans is lagging around everywhere. He needs to make sure he's not going to get caught out by the Welshman's internet, as that is a spinner that is swinging out of 130R, and it looks as if to me he has just reset to track, so that is a penalty, I believe, coming Swede's way for a reset to track. As Ben JS having a bit of a wobble out of turn number 2, as well as Reservoir allowed Larkin to then just sort of sit right behind him and catch back up to him. And I think Larkin now trying to shape up any sort of move he can do on the Ferrari out in front of him. I think he's more causing a hindrance now than anything, as oh my goodness, Reservoir, after having that slight little oversteer out of the Dunlop curve, it meant that Larkin had to back off of that one. Luckily they weren't both side by side, otherwise Larkin would have gone ploughing straight into the wall, but Reservoir, by the skin of his teeth, has managed to hold that position. T-Brom, though, I think we might see a move go down in towards the hairpin. T-Brom's going to try and go down the inside of Luke, down in towards the hairpin. Both relentless drivers going side by side of each other, but I think Luke just managed to break that a bit later. T-Brom, I don't think, got a bit too... well, luckily for him, didn't really keep his nose in that, because I think Luke did shut the door on him. Miami now all over the back of those guys, and as I say, Lifebout with that penalty to his name, still going to get a bit of a hindrance for him, as well as Brent. Both those guys with penalties, and Rex, of course, down at the back of the field with a penalty as well. But at the moment, yeah, T-Brom, just sort of, he's just sort of sitting behind Luke. He's using that ERS to just try and keep as close as he possibly can to his fellow relentless driver. Of course, the other AlphaTauri out in front of him. But yeah, at the moment, I think T-Brom is just, well, I don't know if T-Brom's going to be able to go for any sort of move at the moment. Oh, there's a little bit of a oversteer moment out of the final corner. The Canadian, I think, is now, unfortunately, he was lining up a move, but now not going to be able to have any sort of move going down in towards turn 1. Evans and Coxey, though, they're both side by side, both using their ERS as much as possible. Evans is going to have the inside down in towards turn 1. Coxey's going to try and hold it around the outside. A little bit of a lag tap, I think that was from Evans, and it allows, unfortunately for Coxey, I said it was a lag tap from Evans, and now Coxey having a half spin out of turn number 1, and now drops him down, or demotes him down now, sorry, to P12. Evans up into P11. Definitely needs sorting out for his internet for the next race, that is for certain. But T-Brom again, all over the back of Luke. It just seems to be through that first section. He's so much quicker than the AlphaTauri. He needs to go for some sort of move quick time. And look how close he is even through the second Degner. Is Luke going to be able to go defensive on T-Brom through the hairpin? He certainly is. Larkin and Reservoir are both side by side. Reservoir's going to have the better traction out of the hairpin. Larkin tried holding it up the inside, but unfortunately for him, Reservoir gets a better traction on that outside. He keeps that position for P5 for the time being. Matty now losing 1 second out from Chris as well, so he won't be picking up as much slipstream as what he would probably be anticipating. However, as I say that, he makes his way back into the slipstream, so I think Chris is starting to struggle on these intermediate tyres, and I think the other intermediate tyres are now going to start to come into play for the rest of those guys. But yeah, Chris, as I say, still the only one yet to make a pit stop. You can start to see he's starting to struggle a bit. As there is just one big train going on. Miami just getting a little bit of a tap from behind from Lifebout in P10. T-Brom all over the back of Luke. Here we go. Now this is what T-Brom needed to do beforehand. Just put that pressure on Luke as much as possible. Both using as much ERS as they possibly can. Luke to defend, T-Brom to attack. Luke manages to hold that position for the time being. Toe picking up the fastest lap of the race at the moment. I think the track is starting to get a bit drier now. The rain doesn't look as if it was coming down as much as it was at the start of the race, but it's of course still coming down. So it's still going to be intermediates that are the best tyre as well. But yeah, from the looks of things, T-Brum is looking so much more comfortable. As I say, that had a bit of an oversteer moment, but T-Brum's looking a lot more comfortable in comparison to Luke, just a lot quicker as well in comparison to the AlphaTauri out in front of him. But Resify eyeing up a move on Ben JS. He may want to try and do something going down in towards the hairpin. However, is Ben going to be able to read this? And is Ben going to go defensive on the inside in towards the hairpin? No, he isn't, but Resify isn't going to go for it. I think he's content with just sitting behind the Red Bull for now. As long as it keeps Larkin behind, I think he's happy with that going on for the time being. Chris still, though, 8/10 of a second up ahead of Matty. Matty now dropping Brent out of a second as well. So Brent must have made some sort of mistake out of that hairpin. As, yeah, Luke once again still under pressure from T-Brum immensely, as well as Lifeboat now putting a lot of pressure on the Miami as well. I reckon there's going to be some moves going down in towards this final chicane. As I'm saying that though, T-Brum's going to have to maybe try and go a long way around, not through 130R surely, but through the final chicane. I think we might see something go down as a little bit of a tap from Luke and T-Brum. Luke, I think, just backed off a little bit more than what T-Brum was expecting. And down the inside goes T-Brum, wheel banging going on between the pair of them. And it's now going to allow Miami to go down the inside in towards the final chicane. Luke goes a little bit squirmish. So does T-Brum. T-Brum goes round. Miami goes round as well. Lifeboat gets tagged by him as well. Oh my goodness, that all kicked off just at that little point there. T-Brum going off, Miami going off, Lifeboat getting collected with that as well. Unfortunately, I don't know if it was a little tug or what, or if Miami just got a bit too keen on the throttle. But yeah, I definitely saw wing come off of Miami's car. Yeah, you can see that front right end plate, he hasn't got any, and neither does neither does T-Brum on his front left. So both of those are a bit stricken at the moment, and we might end up seeing them come in at the end of this lap as well. And as you can see, I say no stop for the for our race leader at the moment. He's doing a nice job considering that he's got 17 lap old tyres. He's not doing a bad job whatsoever. Coxie going down the inside just before the deck up on Miami and through on T-Brum as well. Tope right behind Miami now as they make their way up towards the hairpin. But yeah, that was it was a very interesting sequence of events that happened. All got squirmish. Luke managed to hold it though. The rest, they couldn't really do what Luke did. As just a little bit further on up, I say a little bit further, for still this battle here for first, between first all the way down into sixth. This train still going on with all of these guys. Resify using as much ERS as possible to again defend from Larkin, but Larkin's also using as much as he possibly can to see if he can eye up a move on Resify. And just look at how much more confident he is for going through 130R. Is there a move maybe happening down in towards the final chicane? There certainly is. Larkin going straight down the inside. That might have been a warning for him picking that up. I wonder if he has to give that position back to Resify though, because it was straight over that curb. And yeah, he manages to take P5 up ahead of Resify. T-Brum picking up the 3-second time penalty. Of course, with that damaged wing, it's putting him at a hindrance for cornering. So it means he picks up a 3-second time penalty. Miami into the pits, and I'm assuming T-Brum also going to follow him suit as well. Unfortunately, dropping those guys out of the point. So I guess they'd be hoping for another safety car to still have any chance of salvaging some sort of points scores for this evening. Yeah, interesting thing as well. Chris has dropped Matty out of 1 second once again, and Ben JS is now all over the back of Brent. As I say that though, he has a massive squirm coming out of Donlow Curve. So yeah, Ben really sort of struggling on that corner, and now Larkin got the move done on Resify. It's now up to Larkin to try and go for a move on Ben as quick as he possibly can. Are we going to see the ERT driver maybe do something down in towards the hairpin? He's been doing a few moves there so far, but not for this time around. Who's going to get a better drive though? I believe it is relatively even. I was saying that though, Ben has a bit of an oversteer moment. It's now going to allow Larkin see if he can go maybe down the inside in towards Spoon Curve. I think he's going to try and hold it and down the inside for it. He's definitely holding it as much as he can. Ben's having to go on the outside part of the curve. They're both still side by side of each other. Larkin and Ben giving each other very adequate space, and Ben has to back out of that one. Ben's now down into P5, but he's using the ERS. He wants to maybe try and get this move back down around the outside of 130R. It's not going to be very doable. And yeah, Ben, unfortunately, it's just not going to. He shouldn't have tried to hold that around the outside. He definitely should have backed off, because now he's lost yet another position to Resify. It was clearly Larkin's corner. I'm surprised Ben tried to hold that, but he did, and unfortunately, didn't work out well for him. Now down into 6th position, Larkin at 4th, Resify up to 5th. Next target for them both is Brent up in 3rd. Of course, Brent with that penalty. Ben was also closing up to the back of Brent before, so Let's see if Larkin and Resify are able to do what Ben couldn't do and get the job done on Brent to then get the move done on Matty, because Matty really is dropping off at the back of Chris. Chris, you wouldn't think he's on 19 lap old intermediate tyres. That's Evans so close to the back of Luke. Of course, Evans' internet, I think, has been a bit of a reason that he's here at the moment, because of course that contact with Coxie earlier on has slightly helped it, but at the same time he can't say that he hasn't really driven well. As there we go, Larkin and Brent both side by side. That was going through the second deck. No, Brent's going to hold it around the outside. Larkin going to have it down the inside through the hairpin. Reservoir then also tries to get involved with that, a little bit of contact with them. Brent's going to have the inside for the whole of the triple rights, but Larkin, I think, had to back out of that one in the end. I don't know what had happened with that, because I just saw it around the outside of Degner. I think Brent must have made some sort of mistake for Larkin to be where he was. And now, yeah, 1.2 seconds now is Brent behind Matty. So yeah, Brent definitely made some sort of mistake. And now he's well under pressure from Larkin all over the back of him. Of course, going through 130 yards, not going to get any sort of move done. However, into the final chicane, are we going to see a move go down between the McLaren and the Mercedes? We're not. Rex has actually binned it out of Dunlop curve. Is this going to be a safety car? It is going to be a safety car. Is Chris in? Chris is in. That is huge for Chris that he's managed to make his pit stop right now. He won't lose as many positions, but he probably wouldn't have lost as many positions if he pit at the same time as the rest of the other intermediate runners. So a third safety car in this race promotes Matty now up into our lead of the race. Of course, he's made a pit stop as well. Again, I don't really know if those intermediates will go to the end, potentially. But I wonder what percentage Chris's were on, especially for being 21 laps old. Those inters would have been screaming to be taken off for him. So I can't imagine what these guys are going to be like at the end of the race. However, the safety cars that they've been under with them probably has helped them quite significantly, especially with this one. We'll probably get resuming racing for lap 23 once everybody has made their way in. But yeah, Rex now our second retiree of the race, and that one this time was out on track, I say, through the Dunlop curve. I think maybe just a bit too much traction just sent him round, unfortunately, for the American. Now out of the Japanese Grand Prix. We've got 7 more laps left to go of the race. And as I say, Matty now into the lead of it. Brent in second and Larkin in third. Reservoir in fourth, Ben JS in fifth. Luke in sixth, Evans in seventh, Coxie in eighth. Tope in ninth, Chris in 10th, Sweet in 11th, Lifebout taking up the final point position at the moment. Nolan's in 13th, Miami in 14th, T-Brum's in 15th, Scream in 16th, Alex in 17th as well. I think Miami is quite happy, as well as Lifebout, that a safety car did come out, because then at least it's now allowing them to catch up to the rest of the pack. As you can see, they were quite significantly behind. So yeah, it's with the safety car, it's now allowing them to catch up to the back of the pack. With Brent's penalty, I think Brent's going to be seething that a safety car came out, because now it's going to drop him a lot more positions than what he was anticipating originally for that safety car. Question is, both of these guys, Matty was in Division 3 for last season. Is he going to be the first one from Division 3 from last season into Division 2 to pick up a race win? Is Brent going to deny him? Is Larkin going to deny him as well? Could Reservoir deny him? We'll know that answer in probably about 6 more laps time, once we do also get racing as well, and see how Matty's able to take the safety car restart as well. As if you want a bit of an update going on in Division 4, Ghost 72 UK currently in the lead of the race, Steven in second and Evil Dragon in third, but Evil Dragon has pit. Again, still intermediate conditions, kind of similar to what we're dealing with at the moment. And in fact, battling with Steven around the going through the hairpin as well. Steven getting a better traction though. Evil Dragon in third, as Mats has just retired from the session, in P4 as well. And they now also have a safety car. So it's not even as if I can give you any more updates than that. Evil Dragon's in third. Ghost 72 UK can pit, as well as Steven, because they were both on 16 lap on tyres. They hadn't pit yet. Evil Dragon was the first pitter. And now Ghost, I think, is going to be able to hold the lead of the race. Old School as well can also make a pit stop, but he may drop down maybe just at the P5 throughout all of that. But, of course, back to Division 2.
yeah, we're still just waiting, of course, for the safety car to come in. It should be in by the end of this lap, as long as Clicks does catch up, which I'm pretty sure he will. So I'm pretty sure we'll see the safety cars say in at the end of this lap. And once we do, we can get this going straight underway. Again though, with it still only being 5 laps of racing that we'll have, I still don't know who's going to take it. I really don't. I don't have a clue. So, safety car now going to be in at the end of this lap for what I hope is the final time for this evening. Matty is trying to slightly keep up with the safety car. They're saying that though, he's backed off a significant amount more now. So, is Brent going to be able to read when Matty goes? Of course, Chris last time went just a bit further from the final corner. If Matty wants to go, now would be the best time. He does have a bit of an oversteer moment. Nolan picks up a 3-second time penalty under the safety car. Now, Brent, unfortunately for him, didn't really read what Matty was going to do, and now is allowing Larkin to maybe see if he can go for a move down towards turn 1. A little bit of contact between them. I think Larkin might have picked himself up some wing damage from that. The wing still looks okay for the time being, and Larkin down the inside in towards turn 1. A little bit of contact with them, and now allows Larkin to go into P2. Brent now suffering from this with Reservoir, because now Reservoir going around the outside to have the inside for the S section just before the Dunlop curve. Brent, unfortunately for him, now down into 4th position. I wonder if Brent picked up rear wing damage throughout all of that. Evans as well, I saw, was side by side with Luke, but Luke manages to hold the position. Saying that though, through Dunlop curve, he goes a bit squirmish, and now Evans going down the inside of the first Degner to get that move done on Luke. Luke now, unfortunately for him, after that having that squirm, now loses position from Evans, and now Coxey is all over the back of him. Saying that though, he doesn't manage to get the drive out of that as Chris goes down the inside in towards the hairpin. Coxey not leaving really enough room for Chris. I don't think he was expecting the life out on Swee as well by side, and I think this, well, they're both still going to hold it side by side, but I think Swee might be able to take this position. I was saying that, no, Lifebout cleanly drives around the outside. Nicely done from him. Ben JS down the inside of Evans. I don't think Evans was expecting anything to go down with that, but unfortunately for him, got sort of shoved off by Ben JS, and now Ben up in the 5th. Still just sitting pretty behind Ben at the moment. Brent at the moment, sorry. Ben and Brent is really going to be a bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, it's just sitting nicely behind Brent for the time being. Especially with Brent's penalty, he knows he can just sort of sit there and just play it patient. But if he wants that podium, he needs to get this move done on Brent, so he has a chance at Resify. But here we go, down in towards turn 1. Larkin versus Matty. Division 3 from last season, who I think finished actually 3rd, versus Division 2 last season, who I also think finished in might have finished 3rd or might have even finished 4th, something like that. So, is Matty going to be able to defend from Larkin? At the moment, he has been and has done nicely, but we may see a repeat through from what we saw on the opening laps, or the safety car restart, shall I say, sorry. No, it was the opening laps that we saw Larkin get the move done on Matty, so could we see a restart from the opening laps between those two as Nolan picks himself up into P12, into the points, but he has that penalty to hand. As yeah, Matty, unfortunately for him, made a mistake. It's now dropped him down through, I think, through the first Degner. I don't know if he got tapped by Larkin, but yeah, Matty now, unfortunately, picking up a 10-second penalty because of that. He was leading the race and was doing so well for the whole race. He's now down to last. Larkin's now into the lead of this race. Resify puts himself up at the 2nd, and Brent's still in 3rd at the moment. Ben is going to be the one that jumps up ahead of him. I was saying this, Ben is now actually going to be on the podium. He doesn't need to worry about overtaking Brent now. If he wants to sit on the podium, he very well can. However, he's got to worry about the car behind him, especially with the jittering that's going on at the moment for Evans. He has definitely got to worry about the car going on behind him. But Ben's driven quite nicely so far, so is Evans. Despite the lag with him, they've both driven very nicely so far. Are we going to see Ben go for a move on Brent? Not in the final chicane, as Chris and Coxey both side by side once again. Again, Coxey, I don't know if he was expecting him to be side by side of it. They're both still side by side, both contacting wheels of each other, as Lifeboat going clean around the outside of them. All a bit of contact with each other. Coxey's round, Chris's round as well. So, as Coxey instantly retires on track in the session as well. So final few laps, it's all kicking off, and unfortunately for Chris and for Coxie, they've both been collected with each other there. I don't know whose fault that was. I was on board with Chris, but I couldn't really see whose fault that was entirely. From Chris's perspective, though, it did look like Coxie may have lost a bit of traction and went into the side of Chris, which then spun both of them around. But again, that's what I saw it from Chris's perspective. Lifeboat might have tagged him when he was trying to overtake him. I have absolutely no idea. But what I do know is that Larkin is just... It's looking like this is anybody else but his... it's no one else's but his race at this moment, as T-Brum gets moved down to Miami for P10. In fact, Miami, I think, must have made some sort of mistake. He went a bit wide out of the hairpin, because he's already dropped that 2 seconds behind T-Brum. As in fact, T-Brum now on the tack of Sweet Ross. Are we going to see maybe the Relentless Driver go for a move? Not at the moment. However, of course, T-Brum has got that penalty, so he's going to be put even more of a hindrance anyway. Maybe he can try and get past Sweet Ross. As I say that, though, makes a mistake of his own coming out of Spoon Curve. And unfortunately for T-Brum, I think that might be his chances of even attempting to go for a P9 basically done. Nolan's still in 8th, though. Eyeing up a move maybe on Taupe in towards the final chicane. Not close enough, but very close braking throughout all of these. As Larkin, now setting the fastest lap of the race. He's now showing what he can do in these wet conditions. A little bit further up, though, Ben JS now wants to go for this move on Brent. Brent's trying to cover this inside as much as possible. Ben does back out of it very smartly so, as doesn't want another collision, of course, with what happened last week in China between these two of Evans and Ben JS, and Evans almost going into the back of Ben. Luckily for him, managed to back out just in time before he could do anything. But yeah, Ben, he's playing it smart. He knows he doesn't have to overtake Brent to get this podium, but might want to just do it on track just to feel a little sense of pride. But 2 more laps left to go with this race, and they're both on 21 lap old intermediate tyres. They're the only ones that are still on those 21 lap old inters, as Matty has come into the session, come into the pits to retire from the session. T-Brum goes down the inside of Sweet Ross through the first deck nut and gets the move done. So T-Brum's now up into 9th, the Canadian Division 4th champion of last season. Nicely done from him, up into P9 now, and 1.6 seconds behind Nolan. But again, he needs to try and get the gap between not only just to Swede, but to Miami as well, because he's still 1.6 seconds behind Miami's. Miami's still 1.6 seconds behind him. So with just under 2 laps left to go now, we'll see if they're able to do it. And the more it goes on, the less likely it is looking. Still, though, this battle for P3 on track between Brent and between Ben JS is still going on, as T-Brum picks up yet another 3-second time penalty. So as I was saying about that, it's now confirmed he is not going to be able to get up ahead of both Sweet and Miami, and now not even Scream. Scream is now within 6 seconds of T-Brum, as well as Licks. So Licks is going to be able to jump in as well. Unfortunately for T-Brum, it's going to drop him out of the points. His Lifeboat gets the move done on Chris. Through 130. I was saying that both side by side as well, but we're on the final lap of the race right now. Larkin 3.7 seconds up ahead as he picks up a 3-second time penalty. Not really going to do anything unless he makes a mistake. So if Larkin makes a mistake now, Resify is going to be taking this win of the race. And as I say that, he's dropped 0.4 of a second now to Resify. So Resify now 3.3 behind Larkin. I feel like I'm hyping it up over nothing, but at the same time, one mistake from Larkin, it's then going to be done as Lifeboat. Yeah, he's got no front wing whatsoever. I don't know what's happened to Lifeboat, but yeah, no front wing for Lifeboat. And unfortunately for him, P15 is the best he's going to get. But now this has become a bit of a mental battle between Larkin and Resify in this final lap. He's got to get back up to 3.8 seconds, 3.9 seconds now. So it's looking more comfortable for Larkin, but at the same time, as I say, one mistake and that's the win gone for the McLaren driver. In Sector 2 now with a few more corners left to go. Really did not want to take any curb on the spoon there whatsoever. But yeah, at the moment Larkin is doing everything he can to take this win for this evening. Ben and Evans so close to the back of each other with Brent as well. Still not being able to get a move done on Brent, by the way. But of course with Brent's penalty I don't think is really going to matter that much at the moment. So Larkin has done everything he possibly can in at these final few corners. He's just got this corner to go, and it's looking like Larkin is going to take the win for round number 3 around the Suzuka City Circuit.
Reservoir will finish in second. Brent will finish third on track, but it will go to Mr. QVR Ben JS in third. Evans will finish in fourth with Luke in fifth. Brent in sixth. Tope in seventh. Sweet in eighth with Miami in ninth. Nolan will finish in 10th. Didn't get jumped by Scream. Scream ended up finishing 11th in the end. T-Brum only just manages to still finish up ahead of Licks. I thought Licks would have jumped him in the end, but he didn't. So Licks will finish in 13th. Chris in 14th. And Lifebout, unfortunately, taking 15th position as well. So that is all she wrote for round number 3 of the Japanese Grand Prix. And Mr. QVR Ben JS taking driver of the day. You know what? I think that's deserved. I definitely think that's deserved. I think he started down in 17th and ended up finishing on the podium. So, yeah, congratulations to him. Sorry, 15th and finished on the podium. Larkin as well. Great performance from him. Of course, that penalty in the end, it didn't really hinder him, but it definitely was on his mind. Probably going through the last few corners. But yeah, Larkin takes the win for this evening. Reservoir will finish in second. Ben JS in third with Evans in fourth. Luke in fifth. Brent 6th, Tope 7th, Sweet in 8th, Miami in 9th, Nolan in 10th, Scream 11th, T-Brum as I say picks up just about the final points position for this evening in 12th, Licks in 13th, for Chris in 14th, Lifebout in 15th, and then our DNFers of Matty, Coxie, Rex and Charlie in the end as well. So, very interesting Japanese Grand Prix, despite it being a wet race as well. That certainly kicked off a lot more than what I was anticipating for this evening. And I don't think I'm going to do podium interviews because my throat is absolutely cooking at the moment. So, yeah, I think we will more than likely just leave that there for this evening. Thank you to everybody that has tuned in to watch for Division 2 and, of course, for Division 4 that is still going on at the moment on lap 23 of 27. Ghost 72 UK still in the lead of the race. Evil Dragon in second and Robert Someone now up into third, but both Evil Dragon and Robert have penalties, so it might be Iconex who might end up jumping ahead of them, as I think they just had a safety car restart as well because they're all so tight and compact with each other. So make sure you check in to those final few laps going on right now by QVR Verstappen and QVR Packer. But yeah, thanks to everybody that has tuned in. Make sure you guys tune into Division 1 and Division 3 at 6:30 PM at GMT. Division 1 covered by James Head and Old School 3000, and Division 3 covered by Jess Gamer and Evil Dragon, and Division 2 and Division 4 at 8:10 PM at GMT. Division 2 by myself and QVR Killer, who will be back next week, and Division 4, as I say, by QVR Verstappen and QVR Packer. So I say make sure you tune into that one because next week you don't want to miss it out. We're going around Monaco, so make sure you're tuning in. And thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week for round number 4 around Monaco.